getting to the point, but taking the scenic route to get there. This is the Bottom Line Podcast from 100.7 The Score.
It's the Bottom Line. You've got us on 100.7 The Score and 107thescore.com. Hope your Thursday is going well. Thank you so much for joining us on this fine Thursday. A couple days away from the Red Raiders hitting the road, going just down the way to what I expect to be a 50-50 crowd. So maybe not quite a true road game. I don't know how many people are labeling it, at least from this area, a true road game. A lot of support for the Red Raiders. TCU doing everything in their power to make sure there's no red in that stadium. Rest assured, there will be, and there will be a lot. The Red Raiders taking on the undefeated 7th-ranked Horned Frogs on Saturday. Clint Scott, Josh Faupel, and Jackson Frazier. Jackson, how's your Thursday going, man?
I'm doing good. How are y'all doing?
Oh, it's so good. So good. So fantastic. Running around like crazy today. Hey, you can hit us up on the Benchmark Hotline. It's open for you, 806-771-0973. You will hear Jackson's voice welcoming you there on the hotline. Or you can hit us up on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Thoughts like this. Are the skies going to open up and dump? I don't know. I haven't looked at the weather.
I haven't either.
I don't want to be the guy that's just like, oh, it's my favorite type of weather. I love it when it's cold in fall. This is my favorite type of weather, though. I love it when it's cold.
You don't want to be that kind of guy. You just are that kind of guy.
I don't care. I'll own it. We're getting into the perfect temperature as well. We're not quite there. We need to get consistently in those low 50s when it's like peak of the day, walking outside and needing a jacket going, it's a little brisk.
You know, you made a point about pointing out the pumpkin spice things. I think my very first show, you told me about pumpkin spice ramen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Welcome to the Bottom Line. It's a sports show, I promise.
Yeah, and that's kind of how you measured the start of fall, is when the pumpkin spice stuff starts being dished out. How are you on the Starbucks winter drinks, or like the coffee shop winter drinks, like the peppermint mochas and junk?
Oh, out. I like the peppermints you get from
Andy's Candies, man.
Well, I like the actual mints.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I don't like mint flavored, especially peppermint flavored.
Oh, I love peppermint
things
peppermint
like
chocolate.
That. Drinks especially. I'm all the way out. Like, I get so mad if someone's like, "Hey, you want some hot chocolate?" Oh, that sounds great. Big hot chocolate fans, fantastic, right? And they go, "Great, I've got some peppermint hot chocolate." I pick up the pumpkin that they threw at Aaron Rodgers' head, and then I throw it at them because I don't want it. I'm out.
Yeah, I'm derailing us from football. I'm sorry, chat.
Oh, that's good. We get this on the Yates Flooring Center chat line as well from Steven. Two-way street. Ding. Yeah, I mean, Aaron Rodgers hasn't helped himself with the organization.
He hasn't done himself a ton of favors. Correct.
We get this on the chat line. A question. They should have cut Rodgers loose and started to rebuild instead of overpaying him while he's on the decline of his career. Yes or no?
I'd say hard no. There's some throws, especially a couple of touchdown throws. There was one in the corner of the end zone to Aaron Jones, and then there was one in the Buffalo game that they're throws that not many quarterbacks can make. And another thing is that he's coming off of 2 back-to-back MVP seasons.
Right.
And some throws this season are just, he's showing that he still has it. He just has no one to throw to. He lost 3 veteran receivers in the offseason. He keeps losing receivers to injuries. It's, we keep saying this. He's not doing himself a ton of favors because he doesn't trust his rookie receivers. Mm-hmm. So not helpful, but...
Well, and there's part of it to me too, right? You tip your cap to the guy and what he has done for the organization, right? And he's kept Green Bay relevant and a threat for 20 years now, essentially close to that 15 years, I guess, probably closer to that number. But I do think it's an interesting point. I think my answer is you should have been all in one way or the other.
Yeah,
right?
That's true, actually. Yeah.
Mark asked, doesn't Green Bay have a good receiver already, and they still are bad? I guess that would be maybe to Lazard, who is an okay receiver.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's I don't think you'd hear any of the call him.
How dare you say that? Not on the bottom line, Josh. Come on.
I don't think you'd hear anybody call him even honestly like a high number 2 receiver. And Christian Watson was drafted in the 2nd round, but again, back to Aaron Rodgers doesn't trust rookie receivers. And
yeah, I mean, obviously the biggest one too is you're dropping off from a top 5 guy in the league, whether he wanted out or not, and Devontae Adams, and now he's over in Vegas pushing over cameramen for losing to the Chiefs and being a mess over there. And then you have Valdez Scantling not on that roster anymore to the Chiefs. So you lost your entire core and trying to rebuild it with youth. To the question is, yes, Aaron Rodgers is and he should be, because he's only got a certain amount of Father Time will catch up.
Yeah.
It will. And as good as I still think he is, it's a win now mode.
Yeah.
And so you have to be either all in, or, as much as I wouldn't have liked the other option of cutting him and saying, thanks for all that you've done, go make money over with the Jets. Have a great time. Enjoy the Jaguars. They'll pay you and need a quarterback. Have fun over in San Francisco. You're a California guy. Yeah, go win the NFC with them. It should have been one or the other to me. We get this also from the chat line. Phillies went from the highest of highs to the lowest of lows, and it's amazing that in regards to a combined no-hitter, the Stros nodding up the series. Hey, we'll have game 5. Math is hard.
I think I mentioned
for a 2-2 series tonight.
I think I mentioned this with someone else, but so far, historically, the greatest factor or the greatest indicator of an economic recession has been a Philadelphia team winning the World Series.
I was hoping that would go like just across all sports. Like anytime the 76ers have ever actually threatened, it was a plunge. When the Eagles won that Super Bowl with Nick Foles.
Oh, man.
Collapse. What were we doing? That's not going to happen this year, right? I mean, the Eagles, I'm not trying to discredit them, speaking of non-teams that we don't really care about.
Well, we're talking about the Phillies, though. I mean, like, that's where we're at. They're
sure.
Yeah.
Weird, hate it. Did my streaming feed get crossed with 100.7 the Packers? No, it did not. Do want to remind you, though, that Game 5 is tonight on 100.7 the score right here at 6:30. It is 2-all. Let's get to a couple thoughts from the coaches, specifically defensive coordinator Tim Deruyter. Now, the Texas Tech defense will have a challenge of stopping the top offense in the conference right now. Yeah. Statistically, since conference play and before, the Horned Frogs have been lighting it up on the field, and Coach Deruyter talks about that.
I mean, it's tough, but it's a Big 12. You know, as a defensive coordinator or a defensive player, you don't come here for it to be soft. I mean, it's going to challenge you, and I think our guys relish that opportunity. You get into November, and Coach talked about this with our staff and our players. You know, certain teams are battling, to hopefully win a championship, and we think TCU is one of those teams. We would like to think we're in it, but the reality is, that's probably, a down the line concern. It's about going 1-0 this week, and some teams can't handle that. Our charge, and I think Coach does a great job of having our guys focused on improving ourselves every single day, getting 1% better, so that by the time we get to Saturday, we can play our absolute fastest and most violent. If our guys take that to heed, it doesn't matter what they do, we'll have a chance. If we don't practice well and practice hard, the TCU will have a TCU day and put a lot of points up on people.
What do you like about this matchup?
Not a lot, if I'm honest. But
really,
I feel better about this game than I probably should. But I am kind of excited to see how Tech responds to 3 quarterbacks absolutely not having great games for Tech. Mm-hmm. And I mean that's kind of how it goes. It's just seeing how they're going to respond, because you've seen Barrett Morton play well. Mm-hmm. Kind of want him to just play well.
You and me both, man.
I
want to see the offensive line block for him too.
Yeah, I'm excited to see Tech defense hopefully get some stops. I mean, they've missed some tackles but they've, for the most part, been able to stop the big plays, or at least more big. They've stopped more big plays than they've given up, and that's kind of what I'm hoping for.
We'll keep talking about this on the other side. You've got the bottom line on 100.7 The Score and 107thescore.com. 30 more minutes with Josh, and then we'll welcome in Lil Crouton, Jamie Lent himself, at 1 o'clock for hour number 2. At 12:30 in the next segment, it's Action Jackson's Play of the Day as well. 12:45, it's Grill the Bottom Line. Get your questions in on the Edge Flooring Center chat line, along with a Thursday edition of Kaylee's Dailies and a secret word, a chance for you to win $10,000, giving it away to a local lucky listener on November 18th. All that and more right here on 100.7 The Score.
Bringing you the truth, or something like the truth. This is the Bottom Line Podcast from 100.7 The Score.
That music means it's time for the fastest growing game show in the world. Don't worry, the numbers back that sits up. It's Take versus Take. We played here on the Bottom Line at 1:30 every weekday. Clint Scott with Jamie Lent and Jackson Frazier. It's the Bottom Line, 100.7 The Score. Jackson has your questions today. Jamie, where's your competitive meter?
It's not feeling super high today. Mm-hmm.
One of these days you're going to roll in here and just be breathing fire.
Think so?
One day. No.
No?
No.
Will you call me Dragon at that point?
I will. Mm-hmm. Although you will have to fight Garrett Love for that nickname. I gave that as his principal duty stuff as the Dragon, as the kids know him, because I have suspected that there's a dragon tattoo. So maybe we could give you even cooler one like Fire Snake.
Okay.
Which is essentially kind of a dragon.
Snakes don't fly, Clint.
In Australia, they do. Crikey, that snake's flying over there. Half bat, half snake. Okay. We'd call it a snap, but it'd be weird. All right, Jackson, please take it away.
I'm going to let Jamie go first.
Good, good.
Jamie, give me your top 3 Thanksgiving foods.
Macaroni and cheese. Mashed potatoes. And the caramel bottom rolls that my mother-in-law makes.
Sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
That was my old high school nickname, too. Caramel bottom rolls. Here he comes. Watch out, guys. Move out of the hallway. That sounds fantastic. How did you do that?
A sticky situation, Clint.
How does she make the caramel bottom rolls?
Well, you get one of those pans that have like the circles already indented in them, right? Mm-hmm. You know, they're down in there, whatever. And you put caramel in there, and then you put the roll in, and then you put them in the oven. And so it soaks up all the caramel on the top of the roll. Crack that baby, pull that baby out, and it's now a caramel top roll. And so it's like, glistening with caramel on the top.
That sounds good.
Nice, crispy baked roll. Yeah.
That sounds delicious.
Mm-hmm.
My personal favorite, which there's so many to choose from, like you could do a top 15 and I'd fill it out pretty easily. But number 1 is stuffing for sure. Huge stuffing fan. And yes, I call it stuffing, whether it was stuffed or dressing. It's just, I was ready.
I'm good with you.
Stuffing number 1. Number 2 is mashed potatoes, assuming that there's gravy with it as well, but even mashed potatoes standalone. Delicious, fantastic. And number 3 has to be the drumstick. Team dark meat for the turkey. I usually don't have to fight with my family. They're more of the white meat fans. But they also know that if they get in the way of me and at least one of the drumsticks, I will be like Jackson and having children stand in his way of an ice cream cake, and it will be over.
I got to go with Clint, mostly just for the stuffing. Stuffing's number 1 on my list.
It's good stuff. Mm-hmm. Good stuff.
It's delicious.
Clint, we'll go to you now. I feel like Thanksgiving, or Christmas, there's like music, and you think of certain singers during Christmas time. Mm-hmm. There's not really that for Thanksgiving. So give me what you would think Thanksgiving music would be and who would kind of be the face of it.
All time, or do they have to be alive?
It can be all time.
Because there would just be something special. You know, you just had this big turkey lunch, right? You know, it's just all tryptophan to the max. You want to take a nap. Maybe you gather around a fireplace, and all of a sudden you just pump some Prince. I mean, you just get some of that great 80s music. Picturing him in a turkey costume for some reason. Maybe at this point we have talked to Prince and saying, could you actually write some Thanksgiving songs? And he's like, oh yeah. We're going to party like it's the last Thursday in November.
What would a lyric in one of those songs be?
I believe a lyric would be, I'm here to party, I'm here to wobble. Where's the turkey? Gobble, gobble. I have this excess of now unsweetened tea because it's been melted down. Where do I dump it? And you're just singing one of the lyrics, and he's like, "Oh yeah, down the drain, down the drain." Right, for a dessert, you have some sort of raspberry puree. I mean, it goes on and on and on.
You got an answer, Jamie?
I think the voice of Thanksgiving, music-wise, would be Barry White, because for most anything that Barry White is singing to his lady, I mean, most guys are singing the same thing to the turkey, to all the fixins. I mean, any intimate moments that are had with Barry White songs, I think it could be had, you know, with your turkey dinner as well. That's how much people care for Thanksgiving dinner.
I had to do a lyric. He has to do a lyric.
I have no lyrics.
He has to do a Barry White lyric. That's not fair.
This is the first time I've ever been embarrassed to be a part of Take versus Take.
What?
Is it the question or just Clint?
Clint, totally just Clint.
What did I do?
Not the question. 100% Clint.
I'm gonna go with Jamie.
Oh no!
That's the upset of the day.
Ah!
I just can't think of Prince in Thanksgiving.
He doesn't seem like a Thanksgiving guy to me.
Thinking the wrong way, friends.
Okay, I got it. We got it tied up. The last question for you, Jamie. What, since it is National Cliche Day, what's the best sports cliche?
Give me a good example.
Kind of like he's a team player, hard fought team type.
He's a glue guy.
Oh no!
Glue guy. He's a glue guy.
Hmm.
Makes everybody stick together, apparently.
I think Bill Parcells had the ultimate one. You are what your record says you are. How many times do we use that? We've used that a lot when you look at like rankings. I mean, we've said it about TCU, your own opponent. Said that about you with Texas Tech. I feel like that is one that you just come right back to. You can say all of these things, and if it's a really, really good team, you can try to negate what they've done. Say, well, but just haven't been super impressed. But then you come back to, but at a certain point, you are what your record is. I feel like that is a all-time one that gets used a bunch, and it helps too that it started out. You get some of these like who used "Let Sleeping Dogs Lie" first, right? We know who really made this one famous.
I'm gonna go with Clint on this one. The glue guy one was one of the ones I was thinking about, but that one's I feel like it's used and it's usually like also pretty correct when using it too.
I'm glad you gave it to Clint because I feel like he deserved the previous point too. So I didn't want him to take a loss.
Yeah, that would have been. I would have been so upset. I would have left in 15 minutes if I had lost and not come back for the final hour.
Oh man, it's a bad deal. Raspberry puree.
Oh, what's this? Great. What's on the top of this?
Down
It's
the
a
drain.
raspberry puree.
The boy ain't right. Creative,
Not right.
but not right.
Small Town Raider says, heck yes, Clint.
Mm-hmm.
Dang right. Has Bon Jovi ever done a Christmas album? They should if they haven't, right?
I don't know that they've ever done an album. I think they've done some songs.
Born to Follow, one of them. I don't remember the full lyrics.
I don't know that I appreciate your sarcasm with Born to Follow.
I do. I appreciate my own. You gotta appreciate yourself, man. Rule number one in life. You know, if you're gonna love others, you have to love yourself.
I was saying I didn't appreciate you. I appreciate Jackson.
No, that was just hurtful. Oh man, deviled eggs number one. Come on, man. Oh, huge deviled egg fan. I just love the relish tray in general. I'm a black olive fan. I'll do the carrots and celery if there's a good ranch dip. Now here's the Thanksgiving song. Like, this is me with the turkey leg. People going in for it. I'm like, get back! Doom, 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 doom. And then I just... Nap City here in 15 minutes after my 15th serving of the day. It's the bottom line. When we come back, it's Jamie's question of the day. Keeping us up on the H4 Center chat line. You've got us on 100.7 The Score and 107thescore.com.
Getting to the point, but taking the scenic route to get there. This is the Bottom Line Podcast from 100.7 The Score.
Ah, there he is. The voice of Thanksgiving himself, Prince. It's my personal favorite. Thank you, Jackson. Clint Scott with Jamie, Lent and Jackson Frazier. It is the bottom line on 100.7 The Score, 107thescore.com.
You don't have any Thanksgiving lyrics to substitute in there?
Yeah, I would bake for you some caramel rolls if you want me to. Oh, there's one I just completely whiffed on, too, When Turkeys Cry. I mean, what am I doing over here? When turkeys cry.
I don't think that's really like the rhythm of how it goes.
No, it's an extra syllable in there, but it's still a bird.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of birds, there will be a bird. Actually, 11 on the field at one time tonight as the Eagles take on the Texans. We'll have that for Thursday night football on Double T 97.3 at 7 o'clock.
Another part of that Eagles JV schedule.
Yeah. Ooh, superstar quarterback Davis Mills taking it to the Eagles. It is interesting that you've got Philadelphia at Houston football. Sorry, Houston at Philadelphia baseball. Philadelphia at Houston football on the same night.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
We'll also have Game 5 of the World Series on 100.7 The Score. That'll start at 6:30. Series all knotted up. Were you surprised by the bounce back and how it came about for the Stros?
No, I mean, I feel like the Astros are the more complete team, and even though the Phillies' offense has been good, more times than not, good pitching beats good hitting, and Christian Javier has been so good of late. And so I would tell you I'm surprised that they threw a no-hitter. Yes.
Yeah.
But surprised that the Astros won, and even the series, no. Didn't think just because they were down 2-1 that they were gonna pack it in. Yeah, there was some, really impressive at bats in that 5-run inning for the Stros last night. Pena and Bregman, they did what they do, and that's come through in the clutch. And so it was impressive to see, and I still lean towards thinking the Astros come away with the series.
I do too, and
I think they'll win the next two and take it 4 games too.
I didn't expect in Game 3, first game there in Philadelphia, for the Phillies to dominate in the way that they did, but I thought riding momentum still of a 1-1 tie, going in Philadelphia for the first game of the series, I thought they would have a good showing, and I liked them in the first game there in Philadelphia. So that didn't sway me. Now, I did not call a combined no from the Stros to respond. In Game 5 tonight, 100.7 the score. Hit us up on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. We get this. Hank Williams Jr., are you ready for some football?
Are you ready for some turkey?
Are you ready for some turkey?
Dressing? Are you ready for some dressing?
Pumpkin pie party.
Just one of the reasons that I don't really care for Thanksgiving dinner.
Pumpkin pie?
Pumpkin pie.
I mean, I like that you can get like 4 desserts. Because everyone usually brings one and usually getting pumpkin, pecan pie. Not pumpkin pecan pie, but pumpkin pie and pecan pie. Cookies, stuff like that. Underrated one to bring is cheesecake if you're in on cheesecake. I know you're not, but...
The rest of the family is.
Oh, they are?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, underrated one. Bring a cheesecake this year, Jamie.
Okay.
We get this.
I'm not going anywhere.
Just go get one and bring it back. We get, come on, JL, bust out some. Let's get it on for the turkey.
No, I think I'm good.
That was a funny answer. That made me laugh. We get this on the chat line. Turkey intimacy wheat strain makes you sleep like a rock. Yeah. And Shelly says, I apologize again for prompting.
Yeah, I mean the way the slow music is for Barry White kind of stuff. That's what you want after you've had Thanksgiving dinner, right? You just want it to slow down.
Let's take a nap.
That's the way it pretty much feels, right? You're going in slow motion because you've eaten too much.
That's a good answer. So now when I turn on Barry White for the family this year, this is a strange decision. No, you weren't there. It would have made sense if you. I'm not going to remember the argument.
Mm-hmm.
Shelly says, I apologize again for prompting the Born to Follow teasing. One of the few regrets I have in life. How about this for a cliche? Baseball is 90% mental. The other half is physical. All right, Jamie, you got a question of the day for us?
I do.
Jamie's question of the day on 100.7 The Score is presented by Bizarre Solutions. Call them today for a free cybersecurity audit.
All right, I want you to give me 2 things that have to happen for the Red Raiders to beat TCU this weekend.
Okay. First thing is you absolutely cannot turn the ball over and give them extra possessions. If you give this offense more chances to score, it's not going to be pretty. That is the case. If you have another at least 3 turnover day, you're going to get beat by a couple touchdowns at least. It could be uglier.
So you have to win the turnover battle.
You have to win the turnover battle. The other side of that is I do think this is an experienced offensive line that you're going up against. 4 returners that have played for TCU, and the other one played over at SMU for Sonny Dykes. And so he's played a lot of football. I think that you have to get pressure on Duggan. Now, that being said, and I don't know what the answer that is, if it's a spy or if it's just, staying in your lane while you're causing pressure. But you can't let Duggan just take off. Now, he hasn't, I think he's averaged about 50 rush yards a game. And that's good, but that's not what you're used to from Duggan, right? It's been the passing game that he's leaned on and throwing to some of his really good receivers and tight end and skill guys. But I think you have to find a way, at least for a start, to make him uncomfortable. I think that's the first step, because you obviously on the back end have to contain him when you do that and can't let him scramble away. But mobile quarterbacks have killed you this year. And he's a mobile quarterback that also happens to be throwing the ball really well and making great decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to find some way to scramble his brain with what you're reading, and then hopefully that helps you with the other point, and maybe he does make some bad decisions, and maybe you do get a couple picks. That would be huge.
Okay.
So I was going to do turnovers, but I don't want to copy Clint when there's only 2 different things. And I feel like that's kind of any week you could say turnovers,
Sure.
especially.
Sure.
So for this week, I'm going to go with 1 on offense, 1 on defense. Offensively, I think you need to stay ahead of the sticks. I think you need to get yards on first and second down constantly. You need to be getting the just the easy 3-4 to start out. You can't be getting caught behind on 3rd and long as often as it kind of seemed like they were in the Baylor game. And then defensively, you just got to contain big chunk yard plays. I know you can't do it perfectly and have 0 chunk yards, so just contain it to what you can, only allow it a few times. But they have a guy that can do it, and their quarterback with his legs and with his arm. So you just have to, if they just keep getting chunk plays every drive, it's going to be a long day.
Okay, first, Clint said you needed to get pressure on Max Duggan. I'm weary of trying to get too much pressure on him. I think when you go back to the Kansas State game and against Martinez, I thought you were really bad in your rush discipline, your lane discipline with your guys who were setting the edge, and it just made these huge openings. So while I want you to get some pressure on him, I think you have to be more disciplined and not just allowing the middle to open up big time. And so I don't know that I want to see a lot of blitzing here. I think that
Can I do a quick amendment?
Sure you can.
Because
even though it's my turn to answer and I'm answering now and I never said anything when you were answering. Sure you could, Clint. Go ahead.
I want you to cause pressure with your defensive line and just controlling the line of scrimmage that way. I agree. I didn't mean to make it seem like if you're sending 8.
That's bad.
Full house. Sorry. I'm sorry I interrupted. I apologize. Please continue.
Wouldn't have been nearly as fun if he had.
And another thing.
So I just think you have to be more disciplined in keeping him in the pocket and forcing him to be more one-dimensional and throwing the football. And like you said, he's been good throwing the football too. So it's not like that's a guarantee. But why are you laughing?
I didn't interrupt you. It was like, sure, like when you were talking, I didn't.
I played that well, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the second thing is I just, plain and simple, I think you got to protect Baron Morton. You got to give him time to make decisions and make throws and feel comfortable in the pocket because he didn't look comfortable at all last week. Probably because he was running for his life most of the time.
Hour number 3 in the break, I will go get Jamie his catch-up like he asked the first time. More next on 100.7 The Score.
Bringing you the truth, or something like the truth. This is the Bottom Line Podcast from 100.7 The Score.
That music can mean only one of two things. Either we've gone back in time and cranked our boombox up, or it's time for No Diggity on the Bottom Line of 100.7 The Score, 107thescore.com, and the 100.7 The Score mobile app. Gentlemen, I'm going to do something a little bit different today. I have 2 questions that we could go with. One of them involves the NFL. One of them involves Texas Tech football. Which one would you like for your No Diggity question?
Texas Tech football.
You wanted the NFL question, didn't you?
I did want the NFL question.
Well, if we get time, we'll get to the NFL question. Gentlemen, on your digitometer, and I signed a contract that said I would call it this, just diggity, no diggity. Your starting quarterback on Saturday will be your starting quarterback for the remainder of the season.
95% no diggity that it's Baron Morton.
I'm not even putting a name on it, at all. I know you are.
I am.
That is not necessarily part of this question, but 95% no diggity. Jackson?
I'm right there, a little not as confident. I'll say 85% no diggity.
If I said health wasn't an issue, does that change your percentage?
No, I think I'm right about that.
You're still there. Okay.
It's hard to go that far up from 95. I don't have a lot
well,
of-
you could be
don't have a
hedging
lot of-
you could be hedging the digitometer on the concept that he could get hurt.
Yeah, that's fair. I just there's not a lot of wiggle room.
Mine stays. I was already considering guessing no injury.
See, I'm at the 100% mark on this for no diggity. And I also am with Jamie on this one that I think it's going to be Morton going out there and starting. Not because necessarily he's that much better than everybody else at this point. I think he is as good as everybody else at this point. And you are getting him the valuable reps going forward with regards to what you need next year and the year after. And if all things being equal, going with the younger guy, getting him more experience, add something to his bucket that the other two can't give you. And that's a big change for me from the beginning of the year.
Yeah, no, I think we've seen enough of Bear Morton. I know he had a rough day on Saturday, but everybody had a rough day on Saturday. I think we've seen enough to make it feel like he's the best guy for the job right now. And at the same time, even if it was really close, you're building towards the future with him as well. And so it makes the most sense to, and for both reasons, to go with him.
I'm trying to think of something that he could do that would change my mind on this. Because I'm at the one.
He could be really bad.
Well, sure. But I'm also looking at a number 7 team on the road.
What do you think, what's the leash like for him?
At least 3 turnovers.
This upcoming week. Because you're kind of looking back at last week and saying, well, we saw after 3 turnovers, then you finally made a change late, but you turned the ball over another 3 times in the first half against TCU. The leash has got to be a little bit shorter because it's back-to-back, right?
It's also against the number 7 team it's the number 7 team, the number 7 team in the country on the road. Whether it's a hostile environment or not, we'll find out. I'm expecting it to be more so now than it was the beginning of the year.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I don't expect TCU's defense to be as good as Baylor's.
So you think this
the
is more
numbers all season long have shown that Baylor's defense is way better than TCU.
This team's also not played well on the road. Talking about Tech.
No, that's fair.
Like all season long.
That's fair. Yep.
And a younger quarterback, you would feel like he would play better at home, just as a general statement, because he's more comfortable there. And it's one less thing that you have to factor in when everyone in the stadium is with you. That helps out the younger quarterback more than it helps out the older quarterback.
And I think the same thing can be said for the 3 teams that you say you haven't played well on the road. 3 teams that you played were really good teams.
Yes, they were.
Yeah.
I don't know, other than even 3 turnovers, I think but that doesn't mean he won't start the next week against Kansas.
True.
And that's where I'm at in this, why I'm saying that he will start the remainder of the season. He gets pulled after 3 turnovers. I don't know that there's anybody out there that would argue with it at that point. Not your dad.
It just kind of depends what they look like. And I mean, is it because he can't read the defense? Is it because he's, throwing into triple coverage? I mean, is it because he looks shaken? I mean, then that would make me say, okay, maybe we do need to go with somebody else for the next game. But is it because he overthrew a guy here and the ball was tipped up in the air, or because he had one tipped to the line of scrimmage and a linebacker came in? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, not all interceptions are created equal. Right.
Yeah.
And as much as your former head coach, Cliff Kingsbury, was a big fan of, if you throw it, you own it, with regards to the interception, where even a tip ball to the receiver, if the quarterback puts it in a better spot, it's not a tip ball.
Yeah, that's so unfair in my opinion. I mean, you've seen plenty of times where the only way a receiver or quarterback could get the ball to a receiver is it's up around his head and the receiver has it go through his hands and bounce up into the air, and it's intercepted. That, to me, that's no way. That's not the quarterback.
Right. I'm not saying I agreed with him, but that's what the former coach said.
That's the quarterback being hard on quarterbacks. That's what it sounds like to me.
And rightfully so.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because he knows what the position entails.
Sure.
And as an offensive coach that he knows what the position entails and knows the demands that he puts on his quarterbacks.
Yeah.
But a defensive lineman getting his, A 6'6" defensive lineman getting his paw up in the air and tipping the ball at the line of scrimmage is different than throwing into triple coverage.
Yes.
Exponentially different. Sure. A defensive lineman absolutely putting a play on your left tackle on the blind side and knocking the ball out of your hands in a fumble is different than running with the ball loaf of bread style that Baker Mayfield did when he was playing at Texas Tech.
Here's another thing I'll say. I think the rest of the way, you've got one really good defense you're going to face. And Iowa State. Oklahoma, Kansas, TCU, their defensive numbers are not good. So I'm not saying you're winning all those games or anything like that, but I'm saying as far as the quarterbacks go and how difficult it's going to be on them, I mean, we've faced the more difficult defenses. Iowa State's defense, really good. And that whole cloud thing that we've struggled with since the beginning of time, it feels like, there's that to worry about. But that's a few games from now.
You'd figure we'd get, as much time as we see it, we'd get better at it. We just don't.
Nobody else in the conference is killing against
this year.
This year,
It's been an absolute lockdown for them this year.
Yeah,
but other teams have had success against it in the past. It just hasn't been us.
Sure. I'm not worried about Barron getting pulled this weekend. I think Barron, to me, this is a bit of a shootout game. You know, right now I'm thinking like a low 40s to mid 30s game where both offenses are able to put up points.
This question off the Yates Learning Center chat line: Does he get pulled this? Does he get pulled this weekend? And does Tyler go in first? I don't know, and yes is where I would go with that answer.
What's your best win of the season?
Texas.
Right?
Yeah.
Jackson, you agree?
Best looking. Yeah, I would.
I mean, you dominated West Virginia. I think that was, I don't know, maybe you looked the best against West Virginia, but again, we know West Virginia is not a good offensive team. Or excuse me, a good defensive team. Impressive part was what your defense did to them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny to me. I mean, Donovan Smith's an afterthought. It feels like it's either Barron or it's Tyler. I mean, Donovan.
Do you disagree? You can. You're allowed.
Donovan had, I mean, I feel like some of your best performances, but he also had some of your worst performances at the quarterback position. I think your worst performance at the quarterback position was last Saturday. I mean,
with all of them, yes.
Yeah, 11 for 34 from your starter. That's 3 picks. That's kind of tough to overcome. But again, I also think your offensive line had their worst day last week.
They've had a lot of worse days, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. I don't know that you get a lot of reprieve this week with TCU's defensive front, but we discussed this on another program that you and I have spent some time on a daily basis. You just got to figure out ways to work around that weakness. That's not a weakness you can throw a guy at or change one thing at and make it better. You're kind of where you're at on the O-line. Coming up, it is This Day in Sports History. And more conversation from you guys off the Yates Learning Center chat lines. The bottom line on 100.7 The Score.
Getting to the point, but taking the scenic route to get there. This is the Bottom Line Podcast from 100.7 The Score.
It's time to get a little smarter with your most interesting fact of the day, brought to you by Dos Equis and the most interesting fact in the world of the day. So, World Series last night. Obviously, no hitter, pretty interesting. I'm going to add to it for you. The Phillies took their first home loss of the postseason in Game 4 in that no-hitter. It was the 4th time in the expansion era since 1961 where a team was no-hit at home while on a 6+ game home win streak. And this is regular season or postseason. The last team to suffer that fate, the Houston Astros in 2008.
Can't imagine it's happened too many times.
No, but the fact that it was the 4th time, and then it was the last time it was done by the team that did it to them.
Yeah.
This just in, the world is round. So now the Phillies are going to have to do that to somebody on a 6-game home win streak. I would love to.
Yeah.
I would love to
Amongst-
take him up in a plane and drop him off at 32,000 feet.
Amongst other things, to tell Kyrie.
That's just scratch your head moment. Jamie Lent, Jackson Frazier, would you guys like to win $10,000 from the home zone?
I would love it.
You can't. I'm sorry. We're not allowed to play.
I was wanting Jackson to win it.
Jackson, would you split it with us? Or would you take it all for yourself? Be honest.
I would throw like a pizza party or something.
That's fair. Okay, so Jackson needed to quit, so you can go on to 100.7 The Score, because you were listening at one of these times, 10:45, 12:45, or 2:45, which is right now, and went onto the website 107thescore.com and entered one of our special secret words for your chance to get registered to win $10,000. The words you need to enter for 2:45 today on 100.7 The Score: Spartans. Not the 300. That will not get you in. Spartans is your secret word for 2:45. Good luck to everybody at 107thescore.com. The 100.7 The Score mobile app is also where the Yates Flooring Center chat line is in, and Bobby Hot Dogs chimes in, one of our resident Astros fans. Jeff, is it time? Jeff, if it is the time the Astros were no-hit that I'm thinking about, that home game was played in Milwaukee against the Cubs due to a hurricane.
Interesting.
So should it be 3 games? I mean, should it only be 3 times since it wasn't played in Milwaukee? Since it was in Milwaukee, I also don't know that was the game that it happened on. Was that the Yankees that did it to them? No, they've no-hit the Astros have no-hit the Yankees in a similar fashion to last night.
And a combined no-hitter, yeah, a few years ago.
A no-hitter in the postseason is impressive. I don't care how many pitchers you use.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not as impressive, right?
No, it's not as impressive.
I mean, it's cool. And
but it's still really
salute.
cool.
Yeah, it's still cool and salute and nicely done and should be celebrated, but it's not like the same.
No.
We all agree on that, right, Jackson? Not the same. Cool. Worthy of a win, especially in a situation where you
I
didn't.
think it's more than just a win.
Kind of like a whole bunch of people jumping on a trampoline to break.
No, this is actually, there's some level of impressiveness to this. Idiots on a
Jackson.
trampoline taking their turns for 6 days or whatever they did is not impressive.
Well, it was 4 guys taking their turn.
Boring.
I think the most impressive part of the no-hitter for me, and while it wasn't a must-win situation for the Astros, that wouldn't have come until they actually lost last night, where they would have been down 3-1. It was definitely a game that it would really be better if you did win, if you were the Astros, because you didn't want to have to face a winner-go-home game on the road in your next game against a team that had already beaten you at that point twice. That might have been the most impressive part, because you knew Philly was doing everything they could to win that game, to get into that, to get into the catbird seat, as it were. And you absolutely dominated them as the Astros.
Yeah. I think the most impressive part was Christian Javier. I mean, just 6 innings and just didn't feel like there was ever a hard hit ball against him.
Were you a little surprised he go out for 7?
I was not awake at the time. I mean, it feels like the way he was pitching when I shut it down after the 5th, I'm surprised he didn't pitch longer. He just looked like he was rolling at that point, but I didn't see the 6th, so I can't specifically say.
It's not uncommon for the Astros to split up a game like this. They are very much
Or any team.
Well, no, like even in the no-hitter type situation where I think they've got 4 or 5 team no-hitters.
Yeah, I'm just saying, in Major League Baseball anymore, you don't see guys throw complete games. So the odds of him throwing no-hitters is way down because you guys aren't... Teams just don't let guys throw that many pitches now.
Although some of that does go away this late in the postseason, right? Like if Verlander were to throw 120 pitches tonight in a dominant fashion, I don't know that anybody would be surprised knowing it's his last start of the year.
120 seems high.
Okay, sure.
105, 107 maybe. That seems like that's touching the outer reaches of where you would want him to be. Remember, he's just a year removed from TJ surgery.
Yeah, will someone remind him the way, take away the first game of the World Series. Sandy Koufax numbers are close to where he's been this year and the sheer dominance that he's had.
First outing in the postseason against the Mariners was not terrific either. He's only pitched well in really one of his 3 postseason starts.
Why do I forget the Seattle game?
Well, because they got way behind, and that was the Alvarez walk-off 3-run homer.
Okay, that's why.
But Verlander got smacked around pretty good. That's why they were behind.
Yeah, that's how that happens. The come from behind victory stat that always tells me, if you'd gotten your stuff done earlier, you wouldn't have had to be in this situation.
Well, Verlander was crazy good this year. Crazy good. And he was crazy good in his postseason start against the Yankees, but just those other 2 have not been. And this last one was tough to take because your offense scored runs against, in the first game against the Phillies, and Verlander just couldn't hold him down.
And the offense for the Astros has not been good this postseason overall.
Overall, no.
There have been some individuals that have had some good games, and
Pena's been terrific.
Yeah,
Bregman's been really clutch, and other guys have stepped up, but it's
not been the guys you would have expected.
Well, they haven't put up huge numbers. Alvarez had those 2 game winners, but then he's been pretty quiet since then. Kyle Tucker's been quiet. Haven't really gotten anything out of their left and center field position, but Bregman has just been so clutch. Pena's just been, it's a coming out party for that dude. He's been fantastic.
It's gonna frustrate a lot of Astros fans when he doesn't win Rookie of the Year because of what he's done in the postseason. And I'm not saying that he's not in the conversation. It's gonna be that guy from the Royals. Not the Royals. Center fielder that they faced earlier.
Oh, from the Mariners.
From the Mariners.
Rodriguez.
Yeah, he's gonna walk away with that thing.
Terrific.
But just they're gonna be distraught because of what he's meant to them this postseason, and that doesn't count.
He's been really good. Really good.
Cameron Jones writes in on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Come from behind wins reminds me of Tony Romo fans. See, to me, it's more, when I think of come from behind, I think of Eli Manning.
Okay.
Like, that stat always got thrown in the Romo fans' face that Eli Manning had more come from behind wins than Romo did and like 2 others did. Like, it was like a list that, well, yeah, because he didn't get it done in the first through the third quarter. He had to wait till the end of the game to throw a touchdown pass.
I think those are 2 very similar quarterbacks playing at the same time. There's just one little thing that separates the 2 of them.
Duct tape on a helmet or super glue on a helmet, and quite possibly the best defense we'd seen in quite some time.
Such a terrible take. Super Bowl rings. Eli was fantastic in those
He was. In those postseason runs, he was really good.
Act like he wasn't a part of it, and it was it's ludicrous.
The helmet catch was a lot of luck,
Your
though.
Cowboy Homer is sticking out there, Jeff.
It doesn't show off very often, but it does come out.
Might want to tuck that back in.
That'll do it for us. We're going to send you over to ESPN Radio, or if you so desire, check out Tech Talk coming up on Double T 97.3 in about 5 minutes. For Jackson, for Clint, for Jamie, and Josh, I'm Jeff. This is The Bottom Line on 100.7 The Score, 107thescore.com.
This has been the Bottom Line Podcast from 100.7 The Score. Go to 100-7thescore.com for more from the Double T Sports Network.